You know, the one question that a lot of the readers are interested in is the whole issue of alternatives to GPS for navigation. In my case, I'm an old celestial navigation guy, and we had both eLoran and Omega when I was on active duty. And I know that the Coast Guard has been directed to dismantle a number of the eLoran sea stations, and while there was discussion of eLoran taking their place and so on, what light can you shed on how that's progressing and what's happening on that?
Well, I think you can segment it into a couple of areas. The first one is the discussion over GPS and GPS vulnerability and the need to assure position, navigation, and timing. And when I have this discussion, I think if you look at GPS vulnerability and then somebody talks about a backup to GPS, I think that's too limiting a conversation. I think what you need to talk about is position, navigation, and timing, three things that GPS provides, and how do you make a more robust, resilient system so you can assure that those three things happen. And I think it's probably going to be a combination of space-based and terrestrial-based capabilities, so you assure you have redundancy in those three areas. So it gets a little bit further than just GPS vulnerability, or is there a backup to GPS? I think you have to look at the three components: position, navigation, and timing.
And in fact, that's what the conference in Tampa, in fact, advertises itself as: the position and navigation and timing. The whole discussion about eLoran, what can you tell us about how that's progressing or what you know about it?
Well, when I was commandant, there was a discussion about a backup for GPS. We were coming into a decision point regarding some of our eLoran sea stations that had not been upgraded to solid-state technology. So we had a decision to make on whether or not to invest in eLoran C to keep it running, which would have been a backup for GPS. In 2009, when the Obama administration came in, the entire eLoran C system was scheduled to be shut down as an efficiency effort in the government, due largely, in my view, to some mid-level bureaucrats in OMB, but that's another story. But what happened at that point, we stopped looking at eLoran as a form of backup to GPS. Since then, with some of the things we've come to learn now about vulnerabilities of GPS to jamming and so forth, there's been active discussion about needing a backup. And independent of whether you want to talk about positioning, navigation, and timing separately, there are properties out there, there are antennas out there, and there is some residual capability out there that could be applied to an eLoran system, and that's being actively discussed. There's been some direction from Congress to take another look at this, and then just this week they activated a signal on a tower at Wildwood, New Jersey, where we used to control our eLoran system out of, to see whether or not they could do a trial on the distribution of a timing signal. So eLoran is one aspect of how you make a more robust P&T system.